I want to talk a bit more in depth about the phrasing and the dance music structure, but we'll also take another look just quickly at the beat mixing process again, as I want to grab a track this time that requires me to adjust the pitch just a little bit more than the last one did. So we'll just do a recording of another little mix. Just a little bit of bass. There we have a quick mix example being matching. Usually you would come in with a bit of bass off because it smooths the mix down. Usually you would swap. Obviously I got one hand holding a camera, so I've just done that whole mix with one hand there. You can do what I've just done, little adjustments between the two channels. What most people tend to do is get one hand on one and the other hand on the other and make the adjustments in time on the beat, if you know what I mean, kind of thing. And do it that way. Obviously you can experiment with the other EQs when you're mixing. We'll cover the mix itself a bit later on in the some other videos. Right, now I just want to take a look at looping on the CDJ. Most CDJ, especially the Pioneer ones, have got the loop function. What this obviously does is loops a certain part of the track or song over and over again on that in and exit point that you obviously set with these two buttons here. And what generally tends to happen is, so we can get out this intro and something more interesting comes in and we can have a look. Obviously you still be counting properly like we talked about before to set the phrases correct, how many bars that you want to loop correctly. 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. Obviously that was a bit out. Press that to exit the loop. What have I just touched? I've just pressed Q. That's another thing to think about when you're setting your loops. It cues back from the. It sets a new cue point from where you started the loop. So if you had a previous cue point, that's now been changed to the cue point that's been set in by the loop. So we let this go again. We'll have another go. 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. And you can see there, if you look, it's jumping back in the loop. Yeah, it's jumped back again, but you can't tell. That was obviously got that one seamlessly done before. Obviously I'm looking through the camera as I'm moving my hands, so it's a bit disorientating, but we got that second one bang on. If we want to exit the loop, we press this button here and we'll just carry on going now. So you can do that, certain phrases or bars anywhere you want on the track itself. Good for remixing. Obviously some different CD players might have loop memory points for certain tracks. You might have a card that you can store your loop points in, like a memory card or something like that maybe, on certain brands of CD player. This particular one has a loop divide. can play about with that, plus and minus. So you can play about with the loop cutter or loop divide, as it's called on this particular model. So there we have it. Your master tempo that we talked about before. This holds the track in its original key, so you won't get no noticeable pitching up and down, but the tempo will still change, but the original key will stay on there. Something it can be good for, obviously, harmonic mixing, but you generally tend to have artifacts with certain key lock or master tempo. You have to try that out for yourself. But what it is good at is, if you have to do any, while the mix is live and playing out over the speakers, if you have to do any bends, you can't hear, you can hear it shuttling the tempo of the track a bit with that big scourge, but you can't hear any pitch bends on minute to medium adjustments when you do a bend. So if I turn that back off, now you can hear that. So it kind of takes, it's good for that kind of element of things, but I do generally tend to turn it off. Like I say, I don't want to, if you push them too much on the tempo, the pitch tends, like on the turntable, the pitch tends to adjust as well, so I tend to leave that off. Okay, so we'll take a quick look at the turntable, and I've got a record here for part of the example. We'll just move the stylus out of the way and take a look underneath. And see, with the turntable, your motor is attached to the spindle, and your platter, as they call it, is then placed on top of that. It can be removed. You've got these two handles either side, and you just pull that off and it comes off the spindle. Then we have what's called a slip mat. Many various designs over the years have been made available for a slip mat. They're all pretty much the same thing, universal 12-inch slip mat, and what that does is loosens up the friction between the plate and the record. They do come with, like, the usual rubber, thick rubber mats that you play records off, but that obviously doesn't do the same thing what a slip mat does. What that does is, of course, allows the record to play at its usual RPM, but also allows you to put pressure on the and keep that still. So when the record's on top, you'll keep that still while the platter's still moving, and then you can let the record go and let the record play. Now, when it comes to records, I've got this one out. This one's actually got a bigger label than usual, but this is what they call a direct drive turntable. The direct drives are the ones with the better torque. There are belt drives available, and what that is a belt around a motor off to the side, which then goes underneath. Obviously it goes around to the spindle wheel with a belt, and then that drives the turntable. Obviously this one's a direct drive motor, so the motor is directly on the spindle itself under there. It's an industry standard turntable, the Mark II Technics 1210. The 1210 and the 1200 are the same decks, just one's a black, the 1210, and the 1200 is a silver in colour, but they're exactly the same otherwise. There are different marks that Technics have brought out now. Like I said before, some of them are the ones with the digital pitch, and they haven't got this little click that stops it at 0, so you can go all the way through smoothly. Some people prefer that, some people aren't bothered. I'm not particularly too fussed about that. There are these turntables do have a really good torque, but since, you know, over the years there are other direct drive turntables that have, you know, more torque, or some that have a knob or a dial to, or a lever to adjust the amount of torque that you prefer to use. Obviously if you're a scratch DJ you might want to play around and adjust that a bit more, but if you're using things like Serato, or you're going to be playing just vinyl, obviously Serato and any other DJ software that uses turntable or control records as a controller for playing your set, then you obviously want to get used to the amount of torque that the Technics would have, more than something else being maybe better, because these are what's going to be more likely than not in your club that they'll be using to play out with at the minute. When it comes to the dexterity of mixing with vinyl, obviously, like I've already mentioned, if I press start now and I hold that, the slip mat will cause the record to stop while the plat's still moving, and then I can just let go of that and it'll carry on playing. However, the weight and thickness of the record itself will affect how much grip there still is on the record, and some take a right heave to get going again, more or less in time, but in case there's usually, you know, like a slur up and build up. And some you can stick the tiniest of areas of your little finger and just let go, and it'll go straight off. So some records are different. I think some people used to call the term breaking, or breaking in a record, to see just how much, you know, some records you might have to hold. I've had some that I've had to hold at the edge here before throwing off like that. Some you'll have to do this and push it off like that. So there is no real set way when it comes to releasing. They tend to, that one I've just showed you there, they tend to show you that one holding the label, or the smooth part just outside of the label, and in time, like we did before with the CDJs, counting down the beats and then releasing it at the right time. That's generally the kind of thing that people use, but what they don't or they show you to do, but what they don't understand is that all records differ when it comes to the dexterity aspect of mixing. Like I say, sometimes you might have to do it like that, sometimes like that, sometimes with this, it's got that much grip, you get this holding it with the smallest area and letting it go. So yeah, that's that on that. Also, the grip from the spindle itself will affect that. If the hole itself is slightly too large, then what you can do, if you've got some sticky labels such as this, you can obviously cut that sticky label and put that through the hole in the record, and obviously put some of it flat either side, and that will thicken up the hole a bit. And obviously if you need to add some more, you can stick the label down and around the other side, and then what that tends to do is thicken up the hole a bit, and then that can help with that aspect. If the hole is too small and it's causing it to grip onto the spindle and the whole platter is coming to, and the motor is coming to a stop whenever you try to stop the record, you can roll up some sandpaper into a thin tube, like a pencil tube, and just gently sand the hole and remove some of the just a slight bit of the plastic there, or the nylon or whatever it is, the vinyl, and that obviously will slip back on a lot better and allow you to move it more. So there's some tricks that you can do for that aspect of things. The label on this record's a little bit larger than usual. They usually come to around about there, but it's a particularly big label on this record. I'll just we've already gone over the pitch. Obviously that speeds the record up and down in tempo. Your target light, obviously in a dark club you might need that to see where you're putting your stylus down. Bit of dust off the record. You see where you're putting your stylus down. Obviously pops up and pops down. Now you got your RPM speed, 33 and 45 RPM selection there, and your start and stop button. Now here is an important bit. Now some turntable manufacturers don't include one of these. This is a strobe eliminator, is what they call it, and we got this little key here, and each one of the dots refers to a percentage on the pitch that we just showed, slider at the side. And what happens is these dots that are on the platter, you see, is what's corresponding to that key there. And where are we? These dots on the platter aren't just there for decoration, although they might be on other turntables, which they've probably got a generic design from, if there isn't a strobe eliminator and they've just decided to go with it. What they in fact do, as you can see there, is go in alternate directions, and when it's at 0%, as it is now, you can just see that the light can say it's at 0. That main big dot, as it shows you on the key, remains stationary. Now, what we can do here, if we take a good look at this dot, any adjustments that we make to the record, like speeding it up, you see that jump, that dot move. Now you can gauge by how much you actually are affecting the record by checking that dot against the strobe eliminator to see it move. I'm pushing it forward and you see it move forward. Now if you drag your finger on the platter to slow the record down, now you see it jumping back this way to show you that I'm having an effect on the speed of that platter. Now when I go towards +6, the top dot should start to do the same. So you see the bottom dot is now moving, and it's the top dot, there we go, the top dot that's now stationary on the platter. And now if I'm mixing a track together with another track and I'm near this +6%, I don't know why you'd really want to do that, because it'd sound like it's on helium at that high percentage. But when I make them adjustments now, it's the top dot you see that moves, so I can keep an eye on that for the very slightest amount of pressure. Now if I drag my finger against the platter again, you can see it's now the top dot that's going back to show you that. So, and again with 3.3, it's the second from top dot now. that appears stationary and is moved when I touch the platter and move the light, spin the platter. So you can use that strobe eliminator to see just how much pressure and adjustments that you are applying to that particular platter, or the platter or the record itself when it's going around, and also when making minute adjustments with the pitch, because obviously it'll start to move again now, as you see, and you can even and the other way, minus 3.3, is when there we go. The bottom dot appears stationary, and again the same thing, back and forth. So yeah, there we go, that's the strobe eliminator and what that's all about right there. So you can keep an eye on minute adjustments by also keeping a watchful eye on that strobe eliminator, just to see how much it's affected by how much forward or back the dots stream or move in and out of the line. Obviously that's the on and off on the top. Be careful when you release your records. Sometimes I think everybody that's been a DJ at some point has released a record at a certain point in the mix to hit that at the same time and knock it off, and it's gone. So I think they replaced that and put a button on the top of the newer models just for that reason actually. But if you see the way it goes on that way and off the other way, when you release your record obviously you turn it off if you hit it. So you have to make sure you keep an eye out for that. Obviously here you got your 7-inch adapter. The records, the 7-inch records have a big hole in. Put your adapter in there just like the old days, and you can, away you go with your 7-inch. Now the stylus itself, these are an Autofon stylus that's on there at the minute, but the stylus themselves you can obviously swap and change whichever one you want. You can get ones that come all in one. I've had them before, like a Concord, they call them Design, but there's no real reason why you just can't use the head shell and use the screw-on version of the cartridges. Again, there's various brands that you can, and certain models and certain brands, Stanton, Autofon, etc. You got your weight here, and what you do when you first put your weight on is you'd unlock that, and that's the way you set the right weight for the pressure for your stylus, and you would then balance. You'd move that off or take that off and put it back on until it just balances like that in thin air, and then you'd read your documentation that came with your particular cartridge, or if you don't have it, and you can find it on the internet for the tracking weight, and then you would then, because you got this number in here, then you'd slowly twist it to add the weight on for that particular cartridge, and then away you go. Some scratch DJs like to put more weight on there, or even take it off and turn the weight upside down to put even more pressure and weight on and put it on. That's so when they're going back and forth, it doesn't jump out, but you can wear your stylus down if you don't watch out when doing that. So you got your anti-skate here. Most people tend to, because you're back cueing, as they call it, when you're jogging and releasing a lot. Some people tend to leave that down pretty low. I don't know what's it on here. It's on fairly high. I'll just put it on halfway. If you have any What that does, the anti-seize, is stop it from skating across the surface of the record, jumping out skating. So that's what that's for. You could should be alright. What it was on, I was alright using it at. Some people like to turn it off, some people like to lower it, some people put it about medium way. Obviously if you're just playing records and you can leave it on its full setting, you should be fine. But that's basically all there is when it comes to the turntable. Basically you're doing the same thing as you were with the CDJs, you're just releasing it like we've shown you, instead of doing it like that with the turntables. In fact, when it comes to the CDJ, you can, in vinyl mode, you can actually release it because of the way it works, like you do a vinyl record. So you could press, when you press down on the top of the platter on a CDJ, Pioneer CDJ, it holds the record. So if you press play, like you would here, holding the record with these two fingers, and starting the platter up going, while you hold the record up. In the similar motion, you can do the same thing. You can hold the platter there, press play to get it going, hold the platter, rock it back on the beat, and then let go and then it'll start playing on the CDJ. So you can, if you really want to gravitate from vinyl and want that vinyl feel, you can still release it in the same way with the CDJ if you choose. Okay, so I've done a diagram here, just showing you when it comes to phrasing the mix, when you do your mix, how on paper it looks. So we got track 1 here along the bottom, and that's playing along. We got our breakdown here, and then our 8-bar section when it builds up, followed by 2 8-bars and an outro of 8 bars. And this is track 2, the track that we mix in. We release that track and set that track off at the start, after the breakdown, at the start again, or the build up or pick up, as people tend to call it. And we can now see, because we've used that phrasing, at every junction, the end of each 8 bars or 16 bars, something new usually happens. So it's obviously they change, or instruments will be taken out on this track that's already playing, that's about to come out to its outro, and new instruments will start to appear, or lead sounds on the track that's coming in now, and everything, obviously the phrases themselves change together, so everything's flows correctly. Now I've included here on this track, there's a 16-bar section as opposed to an 8-bar, and I've said before that the two 8-bar sections will fit inside one 16-bar section. Obviously there'll be a change there in the middle on the 8-bar that there won't be on the 16-bar section, but obviously it picks back up again then, still perfectly synced up in the phrases, to go back into the 2 8-bar sections again on that outro, and then it gets into the first. Some tracks usually have like a first minor breakdown there, and that's just an example of a mix that's been jigsawed, if you like, together via phrasing on paper as to what's actually happening and what's going on.